Hello and welcome back to my channel with another great video about literature. Today we're going to talk about a Colombian writer whom you may like him a lot or you may hate him a lot. Let's talk about the literary canon and secrets of reading Gabriel García Márquez, one of the winners of the Nobel Prize in Literature and also one of the significant writers in the whole Spanish language, probably the second after Miguel de Cervantes, and also one of the biggest writers in the whole American literature. It is very important in the case of Marquez to start with the right book, and if you choose the wrong book, you're done with Marquez, and you cannot even finish that book you just picked up. Garcia Marquez is one of the postmodern writers, and this is enough to put him in the category of complex writers of this age, alongside people like Samuel Beckett, John Barth, Jorge Luis Borges, and even Donald Barthelme, and so on. I'm going to talk about the features of Marquez's novels in this video so that you can be prepared before facing his somehow different novels, and then I will give you my book recommendations to start reading Marquez. So I hope you watch this video until the end of it. The very first thing to know about Marquez is the important presence of magical realism in his novels. I mean, he is the master of this writing style. Magical realism, as the name shows, is a kind of realistic novel, and if you want to know about realism, its history and all its features, you can watch my full video about realism. I will put the link of this important video in the description down below. In novels containing magical realism, we see everything is like reality, but there is a small supernatural unreal aspect to this novel, which is totally presenting a kind of symbolic significance, which is going to be revealed throughout the story. So when you're reading Marquez, be careful about these supernatural elements and track them to the end of the story to see what happens to that element or what changes it brings to the plot of the story. I shouldn't say that with confidence, but most of the times this supernatural element signifies the imagination running through the cold, dominant reality of the society, especially the society of 20th and 21st century. So keep in mind that in reading Marquez, you're going to face such elements and you're going to analyze them because they are the key to understanding that novel or short story. For example, in the short story, A Very Old Man with Enormous Wings, Gabriel García Márquez depicted everything realistically, like a realistic novel, but the main character of this story is a man with enormous wings, like an eagle. So this is the supernatural element which signifies the imagination, which is not in that desolate village of the story. Another crucial point to consider here is to ask how an author from Colombia with a Spanish language can write a novel, 100 Years of Solitude, to influence not only an entire continent but also the whole world. How can that happen, and why is that? The most important reason is that this novel is like a Bible. It contains everything about human nature, history, politics, social conditions, and everything you may think of. We can say that the English version of such an author like Marquez can be Charles Dickens, perhaps. Yes, because in Charles Dickens we can also see a complete description of human conditions, politics, social conditions, and also psychological aspects. So we can compare these two authors too. Another reason of big reputation of Marquez is actually the magical realism we just talked about, because he was the one who is the master of magical realism, and he was the one who introduced this type of writing to the world literature and influenced a bunch of writers after him. So he is very influential in that sense too. The final reason I'm going to talk about is the content of Marquez's writing. Remember that I told you about the important symbolic significance of imagination, and this imagination stands in a country, in a continent, in a kind of turbulent political situation of America in which there is a need for hope. And Garcia Marquez provides that hope for people, and the freedom of imagination in his novels persuade people to fight for their right and to never give up. And we all know that hope is a kind of universal theme which is not limited to a certain geographical area. So this kind of universal thematic values of Marquez's writing is very significant and makes him a kind of brilliant writer in the world. And his works are translated into more than 30 languages. And finally, he won the Nobel Prize in Literature. By the way, my name is Sohail, and if you are interested in topics related to literature, reading, literary criticism, and so on, hit that subscribe button to watch my future videos as well. And thumbs up for this video if you think it adds value so far. One more point to consider while reading Garcia Marquez is that he was a journalist, and we have lots of writers in the world who were journalists, and this kind of profession affects their style of writing. We have, for example, Mark Twain, we have Graham Greene, we have also Ernest Hemingway, and etc. So when we have a writer whose profession is journalism, we face lots of short sentences, the smart choice of words and diction, the clarity. Yes, the clarity is very important, and also the deep meanings and ironies are present throughout the story. The role of the writer in such stories is like a reporter, so he reports what he thinks and what imagination tells him to write. And it is the readers who must be careful when reading such stories, because the author is only reporting, and the meaning you take out of those stories may not be correct always, and you may make mistakes and so on, and this makes it difficult to understand. And as I told you, this is postmodern literature, and one of the greatest and dominant features of postmodern literature is the specific uses of language, especially the complex ones. I think it is enough talking about Garcia Marquez's writing style and the way we should read his novels. Now it's better to talk about the point we have to start reading Garcia Marquez. If you are new to this author, I recommend you to read a couple of short stories by Garcia Marquez, because I think this can be a kind of warm-up for you to know more about the style of magical realism and the way it shapes a whole story. You can buy a collection of short stories by Garcia Marquez, or you can read some of the most important stories online in the Google. I will refer to the names of some of his most important stories in the description down below, so you can check them and find them and then finally read them. After reading some short stories by Garcia Marquez and before going to his masterpiece, 100 Years of Solitude, you can read the novel Love in the Time of Cholera, which is basically a romantic, lovely novel, but also enjoys deep meanings. And then, if you are still interested in reading Marquez, you can continue with his masterpiece, with his most complete and most important book, 100 Years of Solitude, and other writings and other novels of this significant author. Well, this is the end of this video, and I hope this information helped you in reading one of the most complex literary authors of all times, Gabriel García Márquez. Thanks for watching. Take care.